Hey guys, we're working on a 2007 Ford Edge. We're going to do some front press-in style wheel bearings on both sides. There's a 19 millimeter on that. On the lug nuts, going to get this tire taken off and get down to it. Alright, our goal here is to get the steering knuckle off. So we've got a 1 1/4 or a 32 millimeter for the axle nut there. Right here we got a 8 millimeter to the wheel speed sensor. 24 millimeter on the struts, the hold down bolts here, and we got an 18 millimeter on our tie rod in there. Took the clip out already. We got a 19 millimeter on the mounting bracket for the brakes, and a 17 millimeter for the bolt to the caliper there. I'm going to go ahead and take all those bolts out, get them all loosened up. All right, the caliper pressed back real easy. Came out of there, just used a screwdriver in between the middle of the rotor to kind of press the caliper back to get that off. The tie rod, you gotta hammer kind of hard on it, right here on the knuckle. That'll get her to pop free. Got everything off except for those strut bolts. The axle is pushing back easy. Sometimes you got to put an air chisel with a point bit right in the middle to get it pressed back. On this ball joint bolt, we got a 13 millimeter on this side, and we've got a 15 millimeter on this side. I sprayed it down with a little PB blaster where the stud goes into the steering knuckle. Try to get it to slip out of there easy. So I'm going to take this ball joint bolt out, and then take the strut bolts out, lean the knuckle forward, and try to pull up on the steering knuckle to get the ball joint stud to come out of its home. Usually you can pull up and spin, and hopefully it comes out of there. Get something to punch this out of here with. Little extender. There we go. I've got the CV axle out of the steering knuckle. Had to kind of punch those bolts out. There we swivel and pull, and the steering knuckle comes off. Sweet. Alright, I got it all set up in my shop press. Had to get some clearance away from those studs. I've been meaning to get me a different I-beam that clears all hubs. So I got to stack up some wood. It's not the safest, but if you're smart about it, it does just fine. Got me a impact socket going down to press that hub out. Just the center part, the hub, is getting pressed out first. That's the setup I got. There we go. Broke free. This one might have been able to be hammered out, but I always use my shop press. And there we go. We've got the hub out. You can see the inner race is stuck on the hub. If you got to reuse your hub, I got a trick to getting those off. Next step is getting this C-clip out of there, this retaining ring, and then we're going to press the bearing out from the back. I'm going to spray this down and start working it. They could be a real pain to get out sometimes. Sometimes they come right out. But I'm going to get that ring out and come back to the bench or the shop press. Alright, a lot easier setup for pressing the bearing out after getting that retaining clip out. It just went straight on my press plates. I don't recommend staggering sockets out like that, but I didn't feel like raising up my I-beam closer. So this should just press out. The hub came out so easy, retaining ring came out easy. So this should just press right out. There she goes. That took quite a bit of pressure, more than I expected. I used a little plate from my race and bearing installer kit that was perfect shape. You want to press on the outside metal lip of the wheel bearing to get it all to come out. I had that big socket. I use that impact socket as an extender. Should have just raised my press up, but worked out just fine. And there we go. It all just came out the bottom. Just like that. All right, let's show you what we got here in the light. That's where our new wheel bearing's gonna press into. Just gonna clean it up in there. Rust on the outside where the ring sits. Down there where it seats, a little bit of rust. Just gonna get her cleaned up and wait for the wheel bearing to show up. I just wanted to make a note. On this side, the axle nut was 36 millimeter, and the tie rod nut just kept spinning. The tie rod loosened itself, so I had to get that nut red hot on the top, and it spun right off after I got it red hot. The threads were clean and lubricated. It just did not want to stop spinning. So use a little heat if you run into that problem. Also on this side, the axle does not want to come free from the hub. So we're going to use that pointy air chisel bit right to the center of there. It keeps wanting to slip off. It's because I'm holding the camera in one hand. That'll press it back out of there. I'm going to spray a little lube in there. Alright, we're going to show you how to remove that retaining ring and press in wheel bearings. They're really rusty. I sprayed this one down with some PB Blaster. Just going to remove any built up rust here that keeps the ring from coming out. I cleaned it up good. Take these little tabs. You got to break the rust free first before you use your tool to crimp it together. Squeeze them together. There we go. I just saw it move. Hit the other side. This one's a lot easier than the last one I did. Usually it takes more force than that, more soaking, something like that. Now we got our clips here. And try to get them in the groove. There we go. I got it squeezed together. We're going to put a flat head in right here and pry upwards. They usually come shooting out just like that. That's how you remove a retaining ring. With your snap ring pliers and screwdriver hammer, a little PB Blaster, something to clean the rust off. That's how you get rid of them suckers. We're gonna show you how to get inner races from wheel bearings, press-in style wheel bearings off of hubs. You're gonna want an air chisel with a pointy bit, or a chisel, and some sort of cutoff wheel. What I'm gonna do is put a groove just in the inner race and try to keep it away from the hub. Alright, got me a nice groove going. I'm going to take my air chisel and try to spin it around. There we go, it started spinning. I'm going to let that air chisel slip. As soon as it starts spinning, you get a little tiny gap on the back. There we go. Started coming outwards. You might want to switch bits at this point. I've got better bits for this, but I'm going to do it with this pointy bit. Just trying to give it love taps. There we go. The inner race is extracted off the hub. Just like that. Trying to get this video right. There we go. That should be close enough. Alright guys, we're ready to press the new bearing in. Put a little grease on it to help it slide in with the press. Your goal is to get something that fits on the outside edge of the race. You can use the old bearing. I've got this bearing press plate right here. I use, whenever possible, Temkin lifetime warranty wheel bearings. They seem to hold up the best. You get what you pay for with press-in style wheel bearings. Now I'm doing this with the shop press because I don't have my bearing press right now. Loaned her out. It looks kind of like this set right here, except for this is different. It's got like threads on it, and you put a plate on one side and the other side and squeeze that bearing together. I'm sure there's videos on that tool. You can rent it from any big auto parts store. We're just gonna press it in with the shop press. The goal is to get it as straight as possible and then start pressing in till she bottoms out. I kind of started her in there by hand straight. I use these press plates to even it out. Some of these steering knuckles can get pretty awkward. This one's not too bad. This one's pressing in nice and smooth. I love it. I got that bore real nice and clean. So we're just gonna press it in until it bottoms out. Once it bottoms out, you don't want to keep on pressing. I think she just bottomed out there. Yep, looking good. Right there. That's where our snap ring's gonna go. So I'm gonna pop that snap ring in and then we're gonna press the hub in. All right, we're all set here to press the hub in. I've got a press plate and then a little cone and then another plate to keep the inner race from moving as the hub comes down. I'll show you that after I press this in. Just want to make sure it's going in real easy. And the hub should bottom out on the bearing. That inner race of the bearing. There it is. All right, now I'll show you what I got here. Lift this guy up. Heavier than it looks. See, that's just a little balancing cone from an old machine I have. This guy stayed in here because of the grease. Alright, so I put that on there so that this inner race right here would not press out as we're pressing the hub in. If you're doing it with a shop press, that's the only real important thing to remember when pressing the hub in. Alright guys, I showed you how to take everything apart. Press those bearings out, press them in. Just going to do a real-time wrap up here of putting everything together. Pop that ball joint in first. Fit our axle in, make sure it's going in right. On this side we got a problem though. The strut doesn't want to get out of the way. There we go. Always use a new axle nut with your new wheel bearings. To get that strut in, we need to press down on the control arm. We're going to need a big bar for that. The other side, not a problem. This side, control arm doesn't want to go down easily. There we go. Get that steering knuckle to fit into that strut. You gotta press down on the control arm. Get the bolts to line up. I'm going to use a little extender to help. Help get that lined up in place. Woo! A lot easier with two people. That's why I got Bill here. He's going to press down a little bit on that while I line up this steering knuckle into the strut groove. we go. We got our first big bolt through. We're gonna put that other bolt, Bill. The other side's gonna be a lot easier. This strut just seems to have, this strut has more spring to it. And this control arm wants to lift up more, giving us less room. And this side's a little more of a pain. Alright, we got those in. I'm going to put that ball joint bolt in. It fits into a groove, just to make sure that's lined up. Now this side, the tie rod, the ball joint side, the tie rod just wanted to keep on spinning. Hopefully I can get it to tighten down. I'll help it tighten down and make sure those threads are as clean as possible. Alright, tie rod comes up through the bottom. Just going to start that axle nut on. I still got to check the torque specs on it. I'll give you those torque specs in a little bit. It's 24 millimeter on those. 18 millimeter on the tie rod. I'm going to press up on the tie rod. Alright, I was able to get that nut to tighten with that with the threads cleaned up. Got our little clip that goes in the tie rod. Well, we're going to tighten that ball joint up. Thin bolt, so you don't want to put too much pressure on it. You will snap it off. Alright, everything's tightened down. Except for that axle nut final torque. We can do that at the end. Got a brake rotor. start a lug nut on loosely to keep that rotor straight so your mounting bracket's straight. It bolts in through the back easily. Two different size pins, one's bigger than the other. The bigger one goes up top. When you put the caliper on. There should be 19 millimeter on the back of there. These slider bolts are a little sticky, so I'm going to put a little bit of silicone-based brake lube. We'll put it right on the slider bolts. Big bolt up top. It makes a difference. Make sure your pin bolt boots are lined up. $17 millimeter on the back of those. I'm not going full blast on the impact. Just getting them tight. And that's reassembly. I'll give you the axle nut torque specs, and you should be good to go.
Here's a fun little tip if you didn't know. SKS provides axle torque specs. And here's our Ford Edge. Front wheel drive on this one, 07 to 11, 258 foot-pounds. So I'm going to hit it a little more with the impact and then grab my half-inch long torque wrench and torque her down to 258 pounds to get that kind of pressure. Usually have to put a board on the brakes or have a partner hit the brakes. While the car is on the ground, you can take the cover, the wheel cap off, the center cap of the wheel with the wheel on. You should be able to fit a socket in there and get her torque down. You can ask your parts store for proper torque specs. Most of the time they'll have them for you. But this is just a cool little chart to check real quick.